Entrepreneurs Enigma is a podcast for the ups and downs of entrepreneurship. So the wins and the fails that we all face being entrepreneurs, how we learn from adversity. Every week I talk to a different entrepreneur with a story to tell. I'm Seth Goldstein. Come with me on the journey. This is Entrepreneurs Enigma. Let's get started. Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of the Entrepreneurs Enigma podcast. I'm, as always, Seth, your host. Oh, I'm repeating it again. That's fun. I'll edit that in later. Anyhow, hey everyone, welcome to another edition of the Entrepreneurs Enigma podcast. I'm your host, Seth. Today I have Loree Philip. She is the host of the Daring to Leap podcast. She is the founder and coach of weSpark, a coaching consultancy out of Scottsdale, Arizona, that helps women with their empowerment and career advancement. And I met Loree in the podcast academy. We were both in the membership. Welcome to the membership call, and we kind of hit it off, and we said, "Hey, let's collaborate and get on each other's podcast." So, hey, Loree, welcome to the show.
Seth, so great to be on your show and good to see you.
Yeah, this is fun. So we met, what was about almost a month ago, and on the, what was it, the Podcast Academy welcome call, and we hit it off, and I was like, I should have her on. She has an interesting story, and that's what we're all about. You know, we're all on the show. We're all about the interesting stories, the entrepreneurial journey, and you have one. So that's a good thing. Otherwise, I'm barking at the wrong bush here. So
I do have one. We don't have to cancel right now. We have plenty to talk about.
There we go. So who is Loree? Like, how'd you find your way into entrepreneurship? I mean, were you always an entrepreneur, or has it been like an up and down battle? Have you been a cog in the wheel, that kind of thing?
Yeah, no, I was definitely a cog in the wheel for 16 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
You're brave.
16 years at Boeing. It was one of those, I got my first job right out of college at this amazing big company, and I stayed, and I just took the next job and the next job and the next job at Boeing. And I thought I would be a lifer there. 30 years is not unusual at a big company like Boeing. And something happened during the pandemic where, this is actually, I think, happened to a lot of people, where you just start to realize what's important and what's not important in life, because people are dying, people are worrying about their health, and you're all of a sudden, all the corporate BS starts to feel more like BS, and like, hey, what am I doing with my life? So I definitely was a cog, and I left that full-time, comfortable gig last year, actually in July, to start my own business.
So almost a full year.
Yeah, it's coming up.
Oh, that's exciting. We'll have to have a party online, do a Zoom party. Yay!
Yeah, we should. That'd be fun.
That's exciting. And so you were at Boeing for, what you said how many
16 years? 16.
Wow, that is a lot.
It is.
But you weren't in the same position you were pretty much jumping around trying different things and all that. What did you do at Boeing? What was your thing? What were your things? Things, plural.
So I started off in finance. So I have an undergrad degree in finance. And then I went into program management for a few years. And then I ended up in strategy. So I did strategy for our defense business for
classified
8 or 9 years. What's that?
Classified. Ooh,
I can't talk about it.
No, I won't dig into that though. That sounds like a lot of fun. I mean, that's the good thing about being in a big company, is that you can do a bunch of different things, and it doesn't always get boring. Whereas at small companies, I feel like some people are like, I need a change. But I mean, the pandemic, I've heard this a lot. The pandemic changed a lot of things for people. The people that were comfortable in their job were like, well, what else is out there? What else can I do? Sometimes they change jobs, went to a different business, different industry altogether. Some left their 16-year stint at a big, Fortune, what is it? Fortune 100 company?
Yeah, so it's a, like Fortune
Oh,
50
even
on the
bigger than
cusp.
that.
Yeah, it's pretty big.
It's wild. Yeah. So going into it, going into being an entrepreneur, I mean, it's brave because you're going from something that, this used to be a steady paycheck and, comfortable and not as scary. Now,
Hmm.
it's hit or miss if you actually keep the job and all that stuff. But what, in your mind, what is the best thing about being an entrepreneur?
So my dream of being an entrepreneur was about the freedom. I don't have a
Mm-hmm.
boss. I get to decide how I spend my time. And
Yeah.
I'm the only one to blame if I'm spending my time not doing things that are productive, but at least I get to choose, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when I was thinking about, okay, maybe I don't want to be at Boeing forever. What else do I want to do?
Mm-hmm.
This Because my value for freedom is so high, I just couldn't see myself going to another company in a different industry or doing something like that. So I really wanted to create my own path
Mm-hmm.
and be in charge of my destiny in a sense.
Yeah.
And so that's what it is for me. Entrepreneurship is freedom. And if you want to do it in your heart, like this is what I want to do, you're going to make it happen. And so, if you would have asked me 3 or 4 years ago, are you going to go start a business? I would have been like, are you crazy? No. But
Yeah.
because I was so comfortable in that
Yeah.
stability,
And you got to
and it
change
really
things. I mean, it
takes that.
wasn't boring. It wasn't like you were in the same
Yeah.
position for 16 years. I mean, in a big company, you can move around and you're kind of an entrepreneur in that idea. But you still
Right.
had that safety net. Whereas now well, hate to break it to you. And I think you already know this. You don't have that
Yeah, I
safety
do
net.
know this. I was thinking about it, reflecting a bit on it, and it's like people who choose entrepreneurship, it's like not that they're being mean to themselves, but you grow up so quickly
Mm,
as a person.
yeah.
It's almost like you're putting out all your baggage out there, and it's like, okay, I got to figure this out because
Yeah.
it's just constantly popping up outside of your comfort zone and everything that you're doing. And so I feel like I've grown as a person so much more in this last year than I did for the prior 5 years, to be
I
honest.
love that. Yeah. And you adjust. And I feel like entrepreneurship, I've been doing this for 15 years. And, it's not a competition, of course, but it makes you grow up. And it makes you kind of think outside the box more. And and honestly, still the saying from Truman, the buck stops with you. It
Right.
really does. And when you think about it, it's scary. And actually, we'll go into that question. So being an entrepreneur, there's some good things. You get the freedom. You got you made the choices. It all buck stops with you. What keeps you up at night? What's the scariest thing?
Yeah, I think for me, the scariest thing was putting myself out there. So
Mm-hmm.
I was really, really comfortable
Mm-hmm.
in my prior role, and I was kind of like a really strong person on the team. So I
Yeah.
would, I'd have ideas, I'd create presentation, but I wasn't the person out in front leading the charge, being
Ah.
the face to the organization. And so when I switched into entrepreneurship, I thought I could do it and hide behind my computer, hide behind my classes.
Surprise! Yeah,
Surprise,
surprise.
yeah. So for me, getting past that fear of being seen in the spotlight was huge. And actually,
Yeah.
that's one of the reasons why I started my podcast, to be honest, Seth, was
Mm-hmm.
that I was like, okay, if I left to my own devices, I will hide. I won't
Mm.
post. I won't put myself out there. So I need to put something in place where I'm constantly showing up every
Yeah.
single week.
Yeah. Love it.
And that's what the podcast was for my own personal growth, was pushing me forward with that.
It's kind of interesting because that's kind of what the entrepreneur's enigma is for me. Is that it gets me to an excuse to talk to people like you, like we could chat, but that's still purpose. Like I get to talk to you. We get to dig into what you do. We're gonna dig into what what weSpark does. We're going to go into that and how you're empowering women to kind of do what you're doing, kind of feel empowered to make their decisions and stuff. And like, I mean, maybe I would have reached out to you and we would have chatted, but I would never have gotten Guy Kawasaki on the program. I would never have the gonads to ask Guy to be on the program, let alone then cram his book down my throat to read it in a weekend so I'd be prepared. That was the most nerve-wracking podcast in my life. Nicest guy in the world, but terrifying. So what is weSpark?
Yeah. So weSpark is a coaching and training firm where we go in and we support women, leaders, and entrepreneurs in basically building their confidence is a big piece of it.
Yeah.
To get them to, think broader about what's possible in their career, whether that's if they want to stay in corporate and do the next big step, or if they're an entrepreneur and they're just kind of holding themselves back a bit in what they want to do, just helping them move forward and get past whatever it is that's blocking them. And in my experience, I found that a lot of it is ourselves, as much as we hate to admit it. And it's like this double-edged sword of, I don't really want to blame myself. I want to point the finger at somebody else, but there's
so
a lot
easier to do that. Yeah.
Yeah. But there's a lot of freedom in having control. So, you know what, if it's something in me that I'm holding back for some reason or another, and I can figure that out, I can move forward and I don't have to rely on others to make that happen.
I love it. And I mean, you're kind of perfect for it because you've empowered yourself. I mean, in a big company, you can get lost. Man, woman, they, anyone can get lost in it. But I feel like women especially, recently have had to step up and say, I have a voice. Listen to me, roar. I mean, that's kind of a cliche, but like, I'm as smart as you. Like, to any get your gun, like, I can do anything better. The whole saying,
Yeah.
And I feel like you're perfect for this position because you advocated for yourself at Boeing. I mean, where anyone could get lost extremely easily. Like, it's a big company, and now you're doing the entrepreneur thing. So, and you just said you had to empower yourself to kind of realize that it's not going to just come to me. That I can get out from behind the computer and be social. Like you're perfect. I honestly, I'm tooting your horn here, but like you're perfect for this because you're actually living it and then helping people live it.
Yeah, and and as you probably found this with your podcast, is that there's so much power in a person's story and a person's lived experience that if you share it, if you have a willingness and openness and a vulnerability and you share some of those trials and things that you've had to overcome with people, you have the power to help so many people learn so much without even working with them directly, because they can get inspired from your example.
Absolutely.
Or I've had situations where people have reached out to me after a podcast episode and said, you know what? Thank you for that. Now I don't feel alone because whatever came up in the episode, they can relate to so much. And so I do think there's a lot of power in supporting others with things that you've done yourself.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of authenticity and, credit that you get as a starting point. Like, okay, I'm going to listen to her or I'm going to listen to Seth because they've been there and they kind of know what's going on.
Yeah, absolutely. So what episode are you on?
I just released 18 today.
Woohoo! Yeah.
Thank you.
So you're past the mandatory 3, because everyone says that people in podcasting get to 3 and they're like, I'm exhausted, I quit. So if you get past 3, it's like if you get in entrepreneurship.
Is it 3?
I think it's 3. And I think if in entrepreneurship, if you get past 5 years, you're probably going to stick to it.
Yeah.
So you got 1 year under your belt over there, and you're past the threshold of the podcast. So good for you. Yay.
Thank you, Seth. I actually did one of those exhausting launch weeks where I had 5 episodes released in the same week.
So I never did that. I should have done
Yeah,
that.
I did. But I did, I started off with doing a lot of solo episodes. It was my own content.
Yeah.
And so 5 episodes that first week. I was exhausted after that. I
I can
swear I'm
believe it.
surprised I didn't quit because I
Yeah.
was like texting everybody I know, like, "Hey, did you listen to this? Hey, check
You
this out."
have to.
And
It's just how it is. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I actually Entrepreneurs Enigma. You won't see these old episodes, but 1 through 10 are solo episodes of me just yapping, walking on grass in Vermont or stone in Vermont, pontificating about the entrepreneur journey. And then at 11, I went back to my journalism roots and started interviewing people. And I'm like, this is where the podcast needs to go. So episode 1's actually episode 11. There's a little insight, but it
Oh.
happens.
Did you take them down?
I moved to a network and I never put the old ones up. So I kind of relaunched it on the network, MPN Marketing Podcast Network, and never really released those old ones because they were rough. Even though I've been doing podcasting for 10 years, every time you start a show, the first ones are rough.
I know.
Rough. Exactly.
Yeah, I did. It was, and it's a bit intimidating if it's just your own content because it feels like, okay, people are really going to either love it or hate it, or you're putting yourself out there completely. It's not just you're collaborating with somebody else.
Yes.
And you can kind of share that space with them. So yeah, it was a lot. I was on pins and needles releasing all my own content that first few weeks. It was
So what is the premise of Daring to Leap? I love the show. I love the album art. It's very Saved by the Bell colors, and
it's fun.
bright. It's bright. Yeah. It's fun.
Yeah.
So what's the premise behind it?
Yeah. So Daring to Leap is about daring to bet on yourself, step into your brilliance, and leap forward in your career. So it's a career podcast for women, but it's a mix of personal development stories. So we're now interviewing quite a bit of women who have made big career leaps themselves to hear their story.
Like yourself.
Like me.
You went from Boeing. Like, seriously. Brave.
I know. I'll have to talk to you about that because I spent a lot of time at that plant in Ridley Park.
Ooh. Yes, you know Philadelphia area. Yeah.
Yeah. And so what I aim to do with the podcast really is a career empowerment. So people come in and they listen to other people's stories of where they were, and they hear that, most people are doing something different now than where they started. It's not unusual. And you kind of hear, okay, what did they have to get through within themselves personally to make that shift?
Mm-hmm.
And then we also talk a lot about just all kinds of personal development topics, self-development. And so we're just getting all the tools to be better in our current careers, and then start planting the seeds of, and maybe someday, maybe I'll do something bigger or chase my dream.
I love that. So here's the big question. Don't be scared. This is not 60 Minutes. I'm not Diane Sawyer or Barbara Walters. May she rest in peace. But what is the most important thing to carry with you all the time?
Oh.
I love when people go,
The most important thing to carry with you all the time is your connection with yourself.
Oh, I love
and
that.
It's not a physical thing, but it's so important because what really got me here to where I'm doing now is strengthening my connection with myself and really understanding deeply what I want, where I'm going. And that's how you become like the master of your own ship, is trusting yourself enough to listen. And it's about self-love, and that's where your confidence will come through if you start to pay attention to yourself.
That's fantastic. Perfect answer. A+. There we go. So Loree, where can people find you online? I guess Daring the Leap is everywhere you can get your podcasts, And if it's not,
Yep.
let Loree know, and she'll put it there.
No, please don't
everywhere.
let me know. Yeah,
No,
no,
it's everywhere. I looked. It's everywhere. Like literally everywhere. You can
taking
get
over
your
the
podcast.
world.
And then weSpeak LLC is, where is that located? Is that at weSpeak.com?
It's weSparkCoaching.com.
Spark. Ah,
it's fine.
You're speaking, so it's not
I
totally
am speaking.
off. Yeah,
I am speaking.
weSparkCoaching.com. We'll put all this in the show notes. You can laugh at me later. And then where's your biggest watering hole online? Are you big on LinkedIn? Is it Twitter? Or where is it?
I'm biggest right now on LinkedIn. So if you could find me there, I'd be happy to connect with any of your listeners. That'd be great.
Yeah, absolutely. Put that at the bottom of the screen right there.
Ooh, that is magic, Seth.
Isn't that magic?
I'm so impressed with your podcasting work here.
Oh, I'm fancy schmancy. And on that note, being fancy schmancy, we'll see everyone next time. That was a great show. If you're enjoying Entrepreneurs Enigma, please review us in the podcast directory of your choice. Every review helps other podcast listeners find our show. If you're looking for other podcasts in the marketing space, look no further than the Marketing Podcast Network at marketingpodcasts.net. Goldstein Media hopes you have enjoyed this episode. This podcast is one of the many great shows on the MPN Marketing Podcast Network.